Good morning, Legacy Church family, and welcome to our Legacy Monday morning recap. This is something we're going to be striving to do every Monday morning about 9 o'clock to recap our Sunday morning service and just kind of help bring about discipleship in a greater way. I have Pastor Thomas joining me today, so thank you, Pastor Thomas.
Good morning. Good morning. It's good to be here. I love that we get to do this. I love that we get to talk about this.
Our series for the past several weeks has been Fighting for Your Family, and I think it's been a great series. And I know y'all had a parent conference Friday night. How did that go?
Yeah, Friday night. Well, I mean, it was awesome. It really was an powerful, impacting night that I think a lot of parents enjoyed. And so just getting some wisdom from Peter Pignon was incredible. And there's the Q&A time was awesome, like just answering these questions that these parents have had for a while. And so, yeah, it was just an awesome overall, just an incredible night.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned to me was that our people did ask a lot of questions.
They did. We had several questions, some really good ones, some like interesting ones. But yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah, Peter commented on that because some places he goes, I guess they don't ask questions, or he has prepared questions, but he said our people were eager. So just want to say thank you to everyone for being part of that. Pastor Thomas, thank you for putting that on. Well, yesterday, Peter Pignon was with us in our service, and it was incredible. I mean, I knew he was good, but what he shared yesterday was absolutely phenomenal on transformation. And so this morning, we're just going to take a few minutes and recap some of the things that he said. I'm going to read Romans 12, 1 and 2. This is the scripture that he used yesterday. And I encourage you, like he said, to read the book of Romans. Chapters 1 through 11 lay out salvation. And the Jews were saying, hey, we're Abraham's children, so we're already good. And Paul just destroyed that whole argument. And then the Gentiles, and by the end, he was saying, hey, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Therefore, everyone needs to come to Jesus. And then in chapter 12, he begins the process of how. And so it says, Romans chapter 12, verse 1 says, therefore, I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, so it's because of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So yesterday, as Peter talked about transformation, I think one of the key points that he made is when we get our mind right, it affects everything else in our life. And so I believe his slogan was think better together. And I think that's great. I think that's a whole discipleship principle.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because he started that minds connected whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's just to better the way that we think about ourselves, our family. Because ultimately, like you said, the way that we think, he said it, like you think better, you feel better, you are better.
Yes.
And so it's an incredible like thought process to better your thinking, so it betters every part of your life. So
it's amazing how in the church we focus on our behavior.
Yeah.
I'm going to change my behavior. And I don't know if you've ever tried to just change your behavior alone, and you can try effort. But without changing your mind, it's almost impossible to change your behavior. And so that's why I think this transformation process is good. But just to recap some of the things that he said, first he said transformation is possible when you're connected to God. So Romans 1 through 11 kind of really deal with your relationship with God, that God is necessary for this process.
Yeah.
But once you accept Christ, then in Romans 12, he begins to lay it out. So transformation is possible when you're connected to God. And then he broke it down in just simple, practical terms. And he said, first of all, transformation is possible. And I think we need to know that. There's hope no matter what you're going through.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times the mindset is like, I want to be different, I want to change, but I can't.
Right.
And so it becomes this almost impossible thing in our minds, and so we start thinking that way. And, once we change that thinking or start moving along that process of going, maybe it is possible. Maybe if we, we see somebody else change, or we see somebody else make a change in their life, and we start thinking, they did it, I can do it. And so I think that's the first realization we have to make is, change or transformation is possible.
Yeah. I think, so many people get stuck in that hopeless place. Like, I'll always be this way. I'll never change. My mom was like this. My dad was like this. My uncle's like this.
Yep.
But Paul in Romans lays it all out, that when you know God, transformation is possible. So I thought that was a great insight. And the second thing he said is that transformation is a process.
Yeah, he went in and said it's a process, not a product.
Yes.
I think he used the mentality of like losing weight.
Yeah.
Because we always see this thing, this infomercial. If you're up at 2 a.m, you see this infomercial of take this diet pill. I weighed 600 pounds and now I weigh 60, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, I'll buy that. And so, but it's a lot different when it's with Jesus. It's not so much a product. It's this process of just renewing the way that we think.
Yeah.
And so one phrase I've always heard is don't skip the process.
Yeah.
If you skip the process, you're skipping the lessons, you're skipping the realizations, the things that you need to be better on the inside.
Yeah.
And so
Without the process, you can't arrive. If you try to arrive without the process, you didn't learn the principles that got you there.
Yeah.
So inevitably you're going to go back. But I love that because we always want to focus on the finished product, or, this is it. But it's for the rest of our life.
yeah, we just want quick fixes instead of the actual fix.
Hey, and I fall into that too.
I think so.
It's easy. I want a quick fix.
Yeah.
But like when I'm low on energy, for instance, I'll think I need a quick fix. I need to get me a double shot of Starbucks. Yeah. And thing about quick fixes is they may give you help for the moment, but they don't solve your problem.
No, they don't last.
Yeah, they
Only
don't.
temporary.
No, they don't last. Trust me, they don't last. But they taste good.
Yeah, because you're not learning anything, right? Like you're not handling the problem at hand. You're handling the what's the word I'm looking for? The symptom.
Yeah, you're dealing with the symptom, not the problem.
Yeah, and so don't skip the process.
Don't skip the process. Okay, it is a process. That's why I love talking about the fact that what we're doing as a church body, every local church body, every small group is important because it's about the journey together. Yeah. We're journeying, we're walking together, and that'll be until Jesus comes. Then he said, transformation is about progress, not perfection. And that is huge because I think a lot of Christians think when you get saved that there's perfection. And in one sense, it's true that I'm perfected in Christ at that moment, but it's through his power that I now am becoming what he already says I am. But it is about progress, not perfection.
Yeah, it's always that next step of which goes along with the process. But the progress is just seeing that next step and going, man, this is what I want to get to now. Okay, once you get there, that's progress. Now you've seen that. Now let's get to the next step and the next step. Because I think we all struggle with perfection and want to be perfect all the time. Like saying the right things, doing the right things, looking the right way, versus, man, I just started this process. I just started the progress. Now let me see the progress that's being made in my life. And so.
Yeah, so measure your life by the progress, not by the perfection, because I don't think we're ever going to be perfect in the sense of our own ability. In Christ I am, but this journey is going to take the rest of our life. But look for progress. When there's progress, you can rejoice and take courage that God's at work in your life. And then he said transformation is about people, not problems. A lot of times we make it about the problem. If the problem would just be different, if I didn't have this problem, but it's really a people issue.
Yeah, because it's funny that was said, because I always think about like kind of gossiping a little bit.
Yeah.
How people will, a lot of church people have this. Not our church people.
Not our church.
Not ours.
Yeah,
but there are a lot of people that come to church that talk about other people.
Yeah.
But as a problem. Like, oh man, I can't believe that she did that. I can't believe that they're hanging out together. I can't believe, that they're talking about these things. And we make it more about the struggles and issues that people have instead of about the people themselves.
Yes.
And I think we can't lose sight of that as the church.
Right.
Because our number one goal is getting people to Jesus.
Yeah.
And so if we start making it about their problems, then like we said earlier, you look at the behavior versus what's on the inside.
Yeah.
When the gospel is all about let's go from the inside out.
Yeah.
But our perspective sometimes is, well, let's fix the outside first, and then the inside will.
Yeah, and we judge
follow.
people on their problems, and sometimes we do that ourselves.
Oh,
but
yeah.
that our problems get in the way of what God's doing in our own heart. But when you focus on the person, it's about people. You open your heart to them.
Yeah.
And when you open your heart to them, they are invited into the journey with you. So I think that's awesome. He said some other great things. One thing he said is God can take you from traumatized to transformed. I thought that was a powerful statement. I think everybody's experienced trauma at some level. Yeah. Some people a lot more than others, and they allow that trauma to define them. But I love that he just made the point. God, in transformation, takes you from traumatized to transformed, and I love that. Yeah. A couple of things that he said also, and then we're going to get to the action steps he gave in the last about 4 minutes that we have. But he talked about false beliefs, and I think this is big because sometimes just because we think it's true doesn't mean it is true.
Yeah.
And that's where people get trapped into lifestyles, reasoning things that are okay because, well, it's a thought that I have, so it must be true. And he said even false beliefs can trigger real emotions.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because it's this belief. Once you have a belief, it's almost set in stone, almost, not quite, but because then those things trigger like emotions later on.
It does.
I think another thing he said, kind of connected with that, is true events can cause false conclusions at the same time.
Yes.
And so just because something happens doesn't mean the way that we think about it is always right.
Yeah.
I could see two people talking down the hall from me, and they look at me, and then they looked at me, but it doesn't mean they're actually talking about me. But sometimes it's that false conclusion, that false emotion of going, wait a second, they're talking about me because they look this way.
Yeah. Isn't it true how we as humans do that? Just because we think it must be true. And I know in my own life, I can have these thoughts that trigger these emotions that make me feel discouraged when it's all false. It's based upon a false belief system. Transformation is about getting our mind right. Yep. And so he kind of summed everything up with some action points. And so everybody, this is for that. First, he said, lead your family as a living sacrifice. So we have to set the example. So we can't expect transformation in our families, even in the church, if we as leaders of the church or leaders of our family aren't leading as a living sacrifice, meaning I have offered my life to God. He said everybody is a living sacrifice to something. And that was a great point.
Yeah, and it's always to something.
Yes.
Like you have to understand that whether it's your work or your family, or it's money, or it's your objects that you own, like you're sacrificing to something.
Yeah. I just love that.
Yeah.
And the simplicity of his message was what made it so powerful. Is everybody is a living sacrifice to something. What are you a living sacrifice to? And he's saying, look, if you want to be transformed, lead your family's living sacrifice. The second thing he said was, let go of the culture's beliefs and behaviors. If you're going to be transformed, you have to let go of all that. In other words, that can't be the lens through which you look at life anymore.
Yeah.
You have to have a biblical lens. And that's why Romans 1-11 is so important. And then our mind being transformed gives us that new lens. But we have to have a new lens.
I think as the church, we're called, not just to be a part of culture or not to chase culture, but to change it. And so we can't hold on to what the culture's saying or what, those beliefs have been there, but actually what you said, the biblical lens of knowing, this is what God actually says about who I am and what I should be doing. And so being able to let go of those may be difficult at first, but I mean, it's necessary for the process.
It is. We have to let this become our normal instead of all the other stuff. The third thing he said, action point, is let God transform you. So let God begin the transformation process. Wherever you're at whatever stage you would be at, just let him begin the transformation process. If you don't know Christ, it begins by accepting Christ.
Yeah.
From there, if you know Christ, it's about then continually letting your mind be renewed by his word, walking with others, being part of the church body, letting God be Lord of your home, and God brings that transformation. And then the fourth step is once you lead your family as a living sacrifice, you let go of culture's beliefs and values, you let God transform you, then he said, you will learn to know God's will.
Yeah.
And that's what we all desire is, I want to know God's will and live in God's will. When you do that, you have a real sense of purpose and destiny. And so, man, just a great, I think, lesson yesterday.
Yeah.
I want to thank Peter for being with us on Friday, and also yesterday did a great job. Pastor Thomas, any final remarks you want to?
Well, I think the last thing that he said, the last slide that he put up was changed lives will change legacies.
Oh, man.
So when it comes to our family, like letting God transform you and then learning God's will, that changes your life. And then that will change your legacy, your family's legacy, your kids' legacy later on. So changed lives will change legacies.
Yes. The way he tied that into who we are as a church just was a tremendous blessing.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So to everyone, thank you for being here yesterday. If you weren't, please go on and listen to the podcast, the rebroadcast. I promise you'll be blessed. This is just our Monday morning recap. We want you to know we love you. We appreciate you. Pastor Thomas, thank you for joining me. Yeah. Pastor Zeb, thank you for, as usual, making everything work together. This is enjoyable for us, and we're trying to make it more productive all the time. Your feedback is always important to us. But have a blessed day, and we'll see you next Monday for our Monday recap. God bless. Bye-bye.